I don't know if this is a good review or not. The ending was just not satisfactory to me. I really love this book. Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Kizzy and today I'm going to be doing a little mini wrap up of the books that I read whilst I was not filming. So the little 5-month hiatus that I had, I read literally 3 books, so I'm going to talk about them today just because why not? I haven't obviously talked about them in any kind of wrap up, so I thought I'd just do a mini kind of I've been gone wrap up. There we go. They're all quite actually well-known books, I think. The first book is definitely well-known, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So this is obviously by V.E. Schwab, which is a very popular author. She wrote the Darker Shades of Magic trilogy. Other books that I have read of hers, but I can't remember. She's written a lot of books. She's well loved by a lot of people. She's a lot of people's favourite authors, automatic buy authors, those kind of things. I haven't got on with her books spectacularly. I've never disliked them, but I've never fell in love with them like people seem to do. Especially, I think, maybe because they are so hyped, I expect to love them a lot more. But I've just kind of never really connected to them as much as I would have liked to. So, I'm going to give the Darker Shades of Magic trilogy a second go because I started listening to an audiobook just for some reason. I just randomly decided to reread it on audiobook. And I only got a few chapters in, but I decided that actually maybe I would give it another go. So maybe I will give it another go. We'll see, we'll see. But this is kind of a little bit different to the ones I've read previously. This obviously follows Addie LaRue, who was born in France in, I want to say like the 1600s, 300 years ago. 1700s, that would make it. So she was born in France in the 1700s and wanted to live an independent life, whereas her obviously family wanted to marry her to someone very quickly because that's just kind of how it went then. And on her wedding day, she decides, or she ends up making a deal with the devil that she will do anything to not marry this person, and he takes up on that deal, and instead he makes her invisible. So she's not invisible, people can see her, but as soon as she's out of their sight, they forget about her. Her, like, family don't remember her, there's, like, no trace of her existing now. And she kind of is thrown from her home, obviously because they think she's a stranger, and has to live a life separate from everyone and anything. She can't own anything, she can't make any contact, like she can't write her name down, that kind of thing. Like she can't make any notable trace on the world. So if she breaks something, it'll be fixed if it's not hers, like that kind of thing. And it goes back and forth between the current timeline where she's living in New York and then kind of how she got to that point and her relationship with the devil as it progresses through time. And I actually really enjoyed it. I really liked it. It was obviously the first book I'd read in a very long time. It kind of got me into reading a little bit more. It was a risky purchase for me because, like, obviously, as I said, I'm not a V.E. Schwab fan, so I didn't have high hopes for it, which maybe helped a little bit. And it was just a bit random, like I just saw it in the shop and I thought I might as well buy it because I wasn't planning to get this when it was released. I really enjoyed the romance aspect to it. It was kind of like a slow romance. It follows, you do get the perspective of the male love interest, and he is called Henry, and he is going through, he has, I believe, depression and is really struggling kind of with that whole side of it, like with his family. He works in a bookshop that has a cat, and he also is going through some stuff that I'm not going to say because that will spoil it. And they meet and somehow he can see her and remember her. So he remembers her, and that kind of spirals obviously the story and trying to figure out why, and she builds this relationship with this person that can actually remember her, which is the first time she's able to do that in a very long time. 300 years. So I like that. I wanted to love the romance. I didn't, just because I think because of the nature of it, it did feel a little bit like happen chance, like maybe, is this just because they're literally the only ones that can, like he's the only one that can see her, he's the only one that she can actually make a relationship with. Then obviously you got the devil relationship in there, which kind of stirs up a little bit. And then the ending was just not satisfactory to me. It didn't give me what I wanted, which is why I think I gave this a 4 stars, not 5 stars, because just the ending was really, it wrapped up like super fast and it just wasn't quite satisfactory to me. I think this is a standalone, so we're not going to get back into this world, and I just would kind of like to know how it ends, but I think that's maybe me just being a bit greedy. Like, I liked things wrapped up. Like a nice neat ending. I feel like the devil character is one that people will really enjoy. And even though I haven't actually watched any reviews or like listened to any reviews of people talking about this, I reckon people will really root for him for some, like, because he's kind of that like annoying, like intriguing character that's really dark that you kind of want to know more about, if that makes sense. And you end up kind of, I don't know, liking him but not liking him. And I don't think he's a likable character. Like, I don't like him, he's not likable at all, but I'm intrigued by it. Like, he's an interesting character. Like, I want to know more about him. So I think people will like him for those reasons, like just be naturally kind of drawn to his character, if that makes sense. I don't know. But yes, I enjoyed this book. I would actually recommend it, surprisingly, as I wasn't expecting to. And I rated it a 4 stars out of 5. And yeah, I am really annoyed though. I bought this and then literally like a week or so later they brought out the special edition, the Waterstone. I don't know if you can get it anywhere else, but it's in Waterstones. And it's like a kind of faded version of this, and it just fits, and it's got like faded flowers on the pages, and it just fits the whole story so well. Like, it just works with the story and how kind of like the feeling you get of her life and how her life has been. But it's okay. I got the normal version. The next book I read is one that I bought because I thought it might have been a mythological retelling, but I don't think it is. I think it's just like a historical fiction, basically set in ancient Rome, in Pompeii, and it is Wolf Den by Elodie Harper. And this follows a girl who has been sold into slavery, and she's now a concubine at a brothel in Pompeii. So she has to kind of use the means like she has to try and get herself out of the situation, which basically means she is using the men that want to buy her and use her for her own gain, because that's the only way that she can do it. And this does not beat around the bush. Like, it jumps straight in to the really kind of hard nitty-gritty side of the brothel and her work and what she has to do. It is quite uncomfortable to read, but in a way that's good. It's uncomfortable in a way that it's good, that it makes you feel that way, like it is emotionally impactful. Not good and is like, is a necessarily enjoyable emotion, but I never think that would be a bad thing in a book. If the book can make you feel uncomfortable about the topics it's talking about, then it's probably doing something right, I think. So I think her character is also not necessarily likable. You root for her, but obviously the things that she's, it's hard to explain it, to be honest, because she is incredibly clever and she is using those that are using her to get to a better place, a better position of power, that she can then get herself out of this horrible situation that she's in. I kind of wish that they'd pushed it a little bit further. I would have liked her to be even like a little bit more morally corrupt by it. Like, I kind of want her to have like a really deep like and then come out the other side. Just because I felt like it was a little bit not quite pushed far enough. I just want her to be really horrible, basically, and then, you know, she can like come back out and like re-find herself and all that kind of stuff. But that might happen because this is actually a trilogy, which I also went into it not knowing that. So I was expecting it all to be wrapped up in one single thing, and it wasn't. It was left very open at the end of the book. We definitely have a plan going into the second one, that you can see the direction it is going. It did make me cry at the ending, just a few little tears, nothing dramatic, but I did cry a little bit, because did I see the ending coming? No. I did like a page before it happened, but that doesn't really count, does it? But yeah, I did really enjoy this and I thought it was good. Again, historical fiction is not something I necessarily read, although I do read a lot of mythological retellings, and it kind of had that same kind of vibe, I suppose, because it's in that era. Can't remember what I gave it. I think I probably gave it a 4 stars. The last book I have to talk about is a trunk of a book, and that is The Empire of the Vampire, or just Empire of the Vampire, not The Empire of the Vampire, by J. Kristoff. This is a vampire book. I know. Although, we've had a few vampire books come out recently. Obviously, you've got Crescent City, or House of Blood and Earth by Sarah J. Maas. And then you've got, I won't tell you, but I just got a new book that will probably be, I'll be reading next month. And that also, like, I think it's Mexican inspired folklore, vampire, fantasy, urban fantasy thing, which sounds very intriguing. Very excited to read that one. But this is another vampire book. Haven't read a vampire, well, apart from Crescent City, but that's not really vampires, I suppose, not like traditional folklore vampires. This definitely feeds off that kind of proper traditional, like dark, Icelandic saga type vibes of vampire folklore, and it was very good. It took me 100 pages to get into it. It was not an incredibly fast opening, but I suppose for like a gazillion pages long you would expect that maybe, that it would be slightly slower pace. It is told in two storylines, kind of. It's one main storyline. No, two storylines. It's three storylines? I'm gonna say three storylines. So the first storyline, let's call it the first storyline, follows our main character who is a vampire hunter. We're gonna say that for lack of better words, but he is half vampire, half human, and he is trained to kill and hunt the vampires because they have overrun the world that this is, because something has happened and it's made it continuously nighttime, which means the vampires have risen and have overrun the world basically, because they can just be out and be really strong all the time because it's always night. It's not always night, but there is no sun anymore. The sun has like abandoned them for some reason, or it doesn't work. I don't know, although it's really cloudy, something to do with the sun is no longer there. So even during the daytime, it's quite dark and gloomy, which means the vampires are stronger than they would have been. They're way stronger at actual nighttime, but do you know what I mean? So vampires have overrun, so then they're training these half vampire people because they're like pretty decently strong because they got half a vampire in them. And Gabriel is one of them, and he has been, well, taken hostage, I assume. He in like this tower, locked up, and this other vampire dude wants him to tell his story because he is this renowned, the best vampire slayer that there is. He's a bit reluctant, Gabriel, but he does it, and he does it in two storylines that jump back and forth. But it's told as he's telling it, so everything's in speech, and it tells the storyline of when he discovered what he was to being indoctrinated into the vampire slaying school. It sounds really teeny, but it's not. It's like a massive castle that has like vampire slaying things, and his life then, and then it also jumps to much later on in his life when they are hunting this thing called the Holy Grail that is meant to be the thing that fixes and kills and saves the world from all the vampires. So it's those three storylines, obviously the two main ones that are being told. It did take me a while to get used to it actually like speaking. It's not like show not tell was in my head a lot, but I think I got used to it. Like it is definitely showing, but I think because you have to kind of tweak it a little bit if someone's speaking, just because it wouldn't feel natural if it was like a narrator. Don't know if that made any sense. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but once I got used to it, like it was a book that I constantly was thinking about. Even when I wasn't reading, I wanted to know what was going to happen next, what these characters were doing, how they were getting on. So I love that about a book. J. Crystal can really involve you in a story and a world so well and consistently that he's just a masterpiece of the fantasy genre. And I did really enjoy the whole folklore aspect to it because he definitely pulled in a lot of kind of traditional elements and beliefs and how things work, but also he did like twist a few of them and put his own spin on things, and like I assume got rid of a few things as well. But I think it was just a very well thought out and thorough fantasy. This, I think, is going to be a trilogy. So it's going to be a chonker of a trilogy. I mean, unless the next book comes out and it's like this big, but that would be a bit weird. So yes, I would highly recommend this. If you like fantasy and the whole vampire thing maybe is like putting you off, I wouldn't let it. It's not like a chick flicky thing, which vampires kind of have been pushed into a genre of, with like Twilight. It's definitely not. It's definitely got the darkness, the sarcasm, the wit that J. Crystal's writing comes with. The dark, like quite very dark, like gruesome aspects to it as well. A lot of the time, like some of the descriptions are a bit grim, and the events that happen are a bit grim, and it is sad, and it did make me cry, and it was just a really good book, and I want to be back with these characters so badly. It's so good. It is really good. I gave this 5 stars. It is really good. I keep saying that. I don't know if this is a good review or not. It's just J. Kristoff. He's just an absolute phenomenal person and writer. So, oh, and that's another thing. it has illustrations throughout the book. So if I show you, like, throughout it, the vampire he's speaking to, he's telling the story to, is illustrating the events as they happen, and they kind of, so they align with what's going on in the story, and it's just such a nice little addition that I didn't expect at all when I went into it. Obviously you don't really expect that unless it's like a special edition of something. This is not, this is literally just the book. It's really cool. I really want one of these as a print, and I know Alumna Crate did one, but I obviously didn't realise until after they'd all sold. But yeah, they're really cool. I really love this book. So those are the 3 books that I read in 5 months of being away. I've read a little, hopefully I'll have read a little bit more by next month's wrap up, as I'm getting back into the swing of things and it's all going mediocrely well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you've read recently and what you would recommend, not recommend, how it went, whether or not you're on your track for your Goodreads goal. I am really not, I'm so far behind. I'm literally hunting down in the bookstores thin books to read. So we'll see. I've got a substantial pile for next month's TBR brewing in the corner, which I'm very excited to get to now. But we'll talk about that in another video. So thank you again for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.